All right, I'm the Flat Rate Master, and today we're talking rusty brake lines. Rusty brake lines, you know, I know what you're thinking. The guy in Georgia is talking about rusty brake lines. Shut up. Yeah, the guy in the South is talking rusty brake lines. Why? Because we work on rusty cars, because you Yankees won't stay in your own state. This is what's left of a reel of 3/16 brake line. That's all we have left in stock. We stock brake line, fittings, all that kind of good stuff. So yes, we do brake lines. Obviously, not as often as y'all Yankees do. I am one, so I just live in the South, so I'm a damn Yankee. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about dealing with those kind of issues that you're going to have to deal with. So obviously, you're going to have to make some brake lines. So obviously, first thing, if you don't know about NiClad nickel copper brake line, learn about it. Way, way better than the old hard, really hard stuff. This stuff bends real easy and doesn't crimp unless you really try on it. So let's talk some brake line stuff. All right, so first thing you're gonna need is flare nut wrenches. You obviously are dealing with a rusty car. Flare nut wrenches, like these from Mueller-Kueps, are gonna be your best friend. Now, obviously, they may not always work. You may wind up having to cut the top off and hammer on a SAE socket and try to get it off that way. Now, this kit has wrenches from 8 millimeters to 12 millimeters, no skips. And one of the nice things about it is it's got this offset angle. So you can go into some awkward angles for bleeding brakes. I like that. I don't like taking wheels off just to do a brake flush. You know, your mileage will vary on whether or not you can, crack the bleeder loose because we're talking rust. But a good set of flare nut wrenches is essential. Next thing we're going to talk about, well, cut and brake line. Now this is a 3/16 ratcheting brake line cutter from Mueller-Kueps. I like this a lot. You simply have to push it on and then, as I get the thing, you ratchet. So if you're trying to flare you're cutting a line that is in the car and you're trying to attach to it with a new, obviously, hopefully a good part of the line, and you're trying to just put a flare and a union on there. Don't use compression fittings. Don't do it. You can, use this to cut the line where it's really close and then bring it down a little bit to do the flare. So now you've got it cut. What are you going to use to flare it? Friends of mine up north swear by the MASTERCOOL hydraulic flaring tool. Now, I don't do enough brake lines to justify a, $600, I think, tool. But what I do use for 3/16 is this tool from Mac. It is part number HTBFT, and it is pretty compact. You take that brake line you just cut, you pull it down a little bit. You really only need, that much clearance and enough clearance to do the adapters, and you only need enough room to turn the, flaring part of it, and you got a flare. Breaks apart, 2 10 millimeter fasteners, that's 17, easy peasy lemon squeezy. There's your flare. All right, so the next tool we're going to talk about is dealing with these coils. If you've ever dealt with them, you know, one, you need the tip as straight as possible to get the best possible flare. So Mueller-Kueps has a straightening tool for 3/16. They also have a 1/4 inch. This size was specifically requested, even though 3/16 is more common, but they also have the 1/4 inch. It's real simple. You take the line, you feed it in there, You get you a little workout and you got a nice straight line. Then you pull it off, you've got a straight line. Keep in mind I didn't do that tip, but you've got a nice straight line to then put in. You can straighten out this whole reel if you wanted to. Obviously this is going back on the shelf, so I'm not doing that, but it's really important to straighten the line. And this stuff, that is a real concern because it really does easily get really wonky. You know, you can put a nice little wave in it real easy. And all you got to do is go back and it's fun too. And you've got a nice straight, you know, no waves. So there you go. Then you use your cutting tool and then you flare it with your flaring tool, whichever one you prefer. And important, don't forget your fittings. I don't think anybody that's ever made brake lines hasn't done that at least once, if not a couple more times. I did it once on the same line 3 times. All right, next one. Now this one has saved my butt, or really not my butt, but saved the shop some money and saved some other techs. Because one of the most common line I make is the hard line going to Toyota calipers. Because for some reason, everybody lets them fall. They bend the line, they leak, I have to make a new line. But one of the other problems is when they go to put the new line back in, you know, one of the problems is they try tightening it and tightening it and tightening it and start stripping out the caliper. This is from Matco Tools. It is BRK TH993, and it is a brake line, brake cylinder fitting rethread kit. All right, and they've got an M12, an M10, 3/8, ½ inch, 5/8, and 7/16 sizes. You can see that one's got a little bit of wear on it. And so does that one. That's the 2 ones I've used. The metric ones, imagine that. So, really important not to screw those up on the caliper because then you're buying a caliper. By the way, that flaring tool I showed does both SAE and bubble flare, so it does them both, so just side note. All right, one last bonus tool, and you're in the rust belt and you have to do with things like rust jacking. Well, one of the things you have to make sure is the pad slides freely, otherwise you're redoing a brake job. And grinding the pads is not the best idea. What you want to do is take this file, caliper file from Mueller-Kueps. You getting a theme? I will put links to all these tools, by the way, that I can find in a pinned comment. First comment on the video will be mine. It's called pinned. I have to explain that because I always get questions. Where are the links? Where are the links? Pinned comment. Anyway, really coarse, heavy file for getting rid of that rust where the hardware sits, so you can get a free running pad. So when you put new hardware on there, the pad slides right, you know, so you don't mess it up. Now, little side tip. My boss has my Milwaukee, so I can't bring that one out because he's doing construction down in the lower shop. But what I've used in the past is a cutoff disc. Now, don't use it as a cutoff disc. I use it as a grinder. Very low speed. You just and take care of the rust. You have to be really careful, and I can't stress that enough. You have to be really careful, really slow. Basically, all you're doing is grinding that rust away. Once the rust is gone, stop, and then you should have free moving pads. You know, this is way more aggressive and can easily mess something up. So get the file, but just a little free tip. That's normally what I do. We do not have a blast cabinet, so I can't do it that way. And anytime I've dealt with rusty calipers, that there's nothing wrong with the caliper, I just got rust jacking on the bracket, I take a little cut-off wheel and just sit there and grind away the rust, and I'm good to go. But the file would be better. So I hope you enjoyed my rust belt brake special. I know I'm going to get tons of comments about I don't deal with rust. As always, thanks for watching. I am the Flat Rate Master.